It has been 6 months, 7 months, according to Jason, since the last Stack Exchange podcast. And our guest today, my co-host Jay. You know him as Jadles. You're supposed to say like hello or something like that.
Greetings.
Scoot forward. You're supposed to just literally be touching practically the windscreen.
Greetings.
And David Fullerton.
Hi.
Vice President of Engineering at Stack Exchange Corporation Incorporated, LLC.
Yeah, I hate that title. Can we talk about it?
But, okay, fine.
We can make the whole podcast about David's title.
You can be Chief Code Factotum.
You don't even know how to spell it. Let's pick a different title.
It's a C.
What's Jay's title?
Jay is the Vice President of Community Growth.
I don't have any factotums.
A factotum is a general servant or a person having many diverse activities or responsibilities.
I thought that was Alex.
It is. He's but not. That's why you're the code factotum.
Oh, okay.
Also, producer Alex. Say hi, producer Alex.
Hi, this is producer Alex.
Producing this show. You're supposed to sound. We've been through this. You're supposed to sound like you're at least 2 feet away from the microphone. Try it now. Roll back 2 feet.
It's attached to his head.
I rolled back 2 feet. How do I sound now?
Our cyborg producer refuses to move away from his microphone.
Jay, what is Vice President of Community Growth?
I keep hoping you'll tell me that, Joel. It's been unsuccessful so far. I think I am primarily responsible for making our cookies more delicious. Is that
What?
not? Is this not a baking role? This has been unclear to me from the beginning. I think more seriously, what we've really done is we've stepped back from sort of looking at how to grow the site separately and how to I think support and help our communities as two separate functions. And what we're trying to do better is think about how what we really need to do is
Wait. So that sounded like a bunch of corporate doublespeak. Jay came from a corporation. He still hasn't gotten used to Stack Exchange. So we used to have this chaos team.
That's true.
And we had the community team. And the community team and the chaos team were at war. And so we merged them. And the chaos team was the outreach. That's what you were talking about, the
Yes.
evangelical
Yes.
role of knocking on people's doors and trying to convert them to the Stack Exchange religion. And the community team was there basically to keep the moderators in line.
Sure, I guess that's one way to characterize. I don't really look at them as the moderator police so much. I think the community management team supports the moderators, supports
Of course.
the sites.
That's right.
If you're, then we sometimes pull them out of their homes and drag them into dungeons where they can be,
So essentially there's a lot of going door to door.
Re-educated.
I was trying not to say re-educated. I deliberately stopped myself, but there it is. But yes, the community team is obviously I think should be focused on ensuring our sites are healthy and growing. Well, I think the growth team is had been focused on getting people in, right? How do we help these communities get bigger in ways that won't undermine what they're trying to do?
Seeing as though those are really the same overall activity of trying to make the site more awesome with more people. Well, you merge them into something which is now called community growth with
It
the
is.
slash, horizontal bar, type character.
Just words with
Dash.
space between them?
Space.
Yeah.
Space.
Yeah.
What's new in community growth?
What's new? What isn't new in community growth, Joel?
It has been a really long time. We just realized that we have not done a podcast for 7 months.
No, we've done
Jason
like
reported this.
We've done millions, literally billions. It's not how literally works. We've done so many things. I think the thing I would highlight probably from the community perspective, at least that I'm perhaps most excited about, we've done sort of recently is the review queue, which has not gotten a lot. We haven't really. We've been. I'd say
We
sort
haven't
of
announced
publicly
this.
testing it, right? We haven't announced it, but it's
Right.
been live.
The last time I checked it out, it was still like sort of in beta. And if you put your mouse in the right part of the screen, you could review like 300 things in like 1 minute. It was all just click, 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 click,
Yes.
click, and just get click. Did you fix that?
Joel was the first person to break the review system.
It was
Deliberately, he was like the third person to go in there, and he deliberately broke it on the live site.
Yes. So if you go to stackoverflow.com, on the top nav bar, it says review.
If you have enough reputation to see any of the review queues.
Where are the tools?
So we used to have these old review lists where you could go and you could see lists of questions, and they kind of expanded in place. And we had different things you could do. You could look at new posts by new users. You could look at new posts on old questions. You could look at posts with closed votes. So all these things kind of existed, but the UI wasn't that great. It wasn't really clear what exactly you were expected to do on that page. And so they just weren't used that much.
They were very confusing.
Yeah. So this was an attempt to basically redo the UI, make it much clearer, and kind of distill it down to here's exactly your options. We give you, 5 or 6 buttons and say pick one of these things to do for this. So, for example, you might be looking at a question that we've marked as low quality, just algorithmically detected that it was low quality.
It starts with a lowercase letter usually. That's a,
yeah,
a
or it's got a
normal
smiley
rule.
face. So we detected it's low quality. We throw it into this queue. You pull it up, and the things you can choose. I think I don't have it in front of me. Or it looks good, meaning that I don't need to do anything. You can edit it. You can vote to close it, or you can recommend that it be deleted. So the idea is it's super easy to just look at one post, make a decision, and move on to the next one. And it's fast. It's all Ajax and so on.
And I think the one we've been really focused on a lot on our side is the first post, because we think it's one of those great opportunities to probably have a little bit of both the carrot and the stick, right? So those first posts are a great time to be giving better feedback. So as you review those, the things you can do, you can vote in either direction.
First post, sorry, we should clarify
Sorry.
because somebody might not know. The first post means this is a new user that has never posted on the site before, and they're posting for the first time.
Right. It is the first post
That's what
from a
makes them
given
first.
user.
Yeah.
And what the queue lets you do is essentially, as this queue gets cleared out, you're ensuring that every user has gotten some feedback. And so the hope is that when people are posting things that the reviewer can deem are useful, it's a great opportunity to get them an upvote, make sure it's getting in front of somebody and someone's indicating that. But it's also a great opportunity and to put it in the context that it's a new user, they're kind of trying, they're new to the site, they're learning the protocol, is kind of in your head from the beginning. You don't lose that because you started in this context. Where if someone's not doing kind of the right thing, what it allows you to do, obviously you can downvote, you can vote to close, but it's a great opportunity to give more constructive feedback, right? To put a comment essentially saying this isn't probably quite specific enough. You may be in danger of
Well, it's
having
usually,
this closed.
actually, I think probably most first users are doing good things, aren't they? Most new posts are actually
Yes.
Yeah,
people
most
who
of the
do
time.
good.
Yes.
And so you want to vote them up and maybe add a friendly comment welcoming them to Stack Exchange.
Absolutely.
You could bake them cookies and send them to their house if you had their address, which you don't.
And I think that's what we want to generally have is every new user get some sort of encouragement. And so even if it's, you didn't quite do the right thing here, here's how you could improve it, right, and make it the right thing and it'll work. But most of the time, to your point, we want to see is these people who did good things to start with getting
positive
upvotes,
feedback right away.
getting good comments, and it reinforces. It helps a little bit. Then when later they go and post something wrong, and it's not as perfect to get feedback, they already believe it's a site where people are trying to help each other, and I think that they've got an instant sort of reinforcement of why it works and why they should want to be here. And I think what's cool too about the review post in particular is even in this sort of test phase, we've seen a series of great evolutions over time where we've either gotten feedback or seen things and the dev team has very quickly kind of added and tweaked. Like one of the more recent ones we found was people were, I actually noticed this and someone else posted on Meta, is they'd be going through the review post and they'd find one where someone posted something new. It wasn't a great help to the original asker, right? So someone put a comment and said, this isn't quite what I was asking, but thanks anyway, whatever. And you get there and review, and you couldn't do much because the actions you needed to upvote or downvote, neither of which were appropriate. They tried, so you don't want to give a downvote, but it's not that helpful. So you don't want to give an upvote either. Someone's already given a comment to explain why, so commenting didn't work. And so you had to sort of click not sure, which wasn't quite right. You kind of are sure that this one's okay. There's not much else to do. They got the right feedback to show them that the help was appreciated, but it didn't quite work. And so you had to kind of punt it back into the queue. And that feedback was taken, and there's a lot of discussion. Ultimately, what already has been added is that the team added a feature where one of the new functions is you can upvote an existing comment. So which essentially covers almost every case where you are sure there's now an action to take. And when you're not sure because you just don't know if it's a good answer, you should click not sure. And it goes back in the queue until someone is.
Until somebody who does know.
Right. But now we think in any case where someone could have enough information to understand what's going on, there's an action you can take that is helpful and reinforcing of the feedback so that you can basically say this has been handled. This person got the feedback they should have and move on. There were a couple other tweaks, but I don't recall.
Yeah, another interesting, well, maybe not that interesting, but a feature that people really wanted that we just added was the ability to filter the queue. So we were already doing some magic where we tried to give you tags that you were interested in, but people wanted the ability to
even in the review queue, we were giving you tags.
Yeah, and all the review queue stuff. We were giving you tags that.
Oh yeah,
you're
there's a
interested
tiny
in.
little word that it says filter.
But now you can filter it and specify exactly
sweet.
only show me things with these tags, or there's some other options.
So I could search for all the too localized shit and just.
Yep. So in like
reopen
the
it.
closed vote queue, you can say I only want to look at stuff that are duplicates, and you'll just get a queue of things that are duplicates. And then the other thing we added was badges and badge progress.
This is fun. This is so easy. How to display last four numbers in an int.
There's an interesting problem now
Not too
that we're
localized.
starting to, we've been thinking about it all along, and we're still working on it, which is it's so easy now that, and we've got these badges and badge progress that some people apparently are just going through and just kind of clicking whatever they can to get the badge. And people are getting annoyed because, like on a first post, somebody goes in there and they think it needs to be edited, and they're in the middle of writing a nice comment, and meanwhile somebody else sped through and just upvoted it and went to the next one so that they got their point towards their badge.
Wait, who does that hurt?
Well, it's like the incentives aren't quite aligned right.
You have an incentive to just go through the.
You have an
this queue
incentive
and
to
do-
just go
you know,
fast. Or worse, there's things like in the close vote queue, you only have so many close votes in a day, but you have plenty of do not close votes. So people will, kind of just, when they start to run out of close votes, they'll just skip through and find things to vote do not close on.
What does do not close do?
Does
Does it subtract one from the close votes? Or?
No, if you get enough do not close votes, we age away the close votes and it goes out of the queue.
If you get enough,
It's the same thing as closing. If you get 5 close votes, it's closed. If you get 5 do not close votes, it's not closed, and we erase the closed votes, and it starts over.
It's a lot
Okay,
like the closed door button on an elevator, I think. It's a thing you can press that makes you feel
No,
better.
it does do something.
no,
At
no,
first,
that's not
affect someone.
At first, it didn't do anything. There was literally a point at which it did nothing. But now it does. If you get 5 do not close votes, then we remove it.
We should have
Then
called
we
it the
remove all the
nice-
closed
There's a
votes.
thing
nice
called the do
button.
not close vote, and 5 of them will actually remove any accumulated close votes.
Yes.
And will it reopen then if it got closed somehow? I don't know.
No.
I
I mean,
guess
if
it's
it got
possible
closed in the
to slide into the
interim, it
same
gets
thing.
removed from the queue. So the next thing we've talked about adding is another queue, which is the reopen queue, which is all the stuff that's got a reopen vote.
This could go on forever because then you could have a reclose queue.
No, it'll
For
go
things that were
back into the
reopened,
same
you have to
queue.
re-queue.
Well, this is the nature of our close and reopen system, where it goes 5 and 5 and 5 and 5 and back and forth.
Yeah, I think that it hits on something now, which is I think importantly and correctly, we have a very good system to close bad questions. We don't have a great way right now. There's not an easy way to get that sort of reversed in the cases where initially there was some confusion and the closed votes were counted. We actually had a good example recently where something was shut down on a super user because they were asking about some Twitter thing. And so it would shut down quite seemingly kind of logically. 5 people voted to close, no mods, all kind of high rep users, because it appeared to be about web apps. And so they shut it all down. And he was actually asking about a specific client, a client that reads Twitter that he was using. And we can't find any other reason it was shut down, basically. And we actually located it because they were talking about it somewhere else. And we went and checked it out, and it looked like it was. He'd actually said, why is this closed? And, in this case, didn't get feedback. Often you do. And I think part of the trick is there's not a great way right now to get someone to look at something that was closed in those relatively rare cases, I think, where stuff's closed over some confusion, et cetera.
We should. We were going to look at the wording that we use around closed questions. Why don't we try to
We're looking at it.
soften it?
We're going through all the closed wording right now to basically come up with places we think potentially we could do better. And then once we find those, we're going to kind of open that up for feedback from the community to see.
But
I think the problem
Joel's
is
referring specifically to the word close, right? We've talked at some points about just totally changing the word close since it doesn't quite convey what we want it to.
we could say send to a farm.
sent to
A farm upstate.
Where the question can run free and not be in such a small...
It's in Syracuse.
But I do think there's a real problem, which is that I don't think it's not a real problem in the sense that a lot of questions get closed and then get fixed, but we don't reopen them. I think realistically things just get closed and people go away and never come back. The problem is more
okay.
around messaging, is that when your thing gets closed, we don't really have any, we
Think of the names.
we don't tell you what you did wrong and how you can fix it.
Yeah. So let's start with the names of the closed reasons. Too localized is wrong. That word is incorrect. The word localized means something else.
Too narrow, too.
Yeah. So possibly too narrow, but even that sort of surprises people. Not constructive is like, oh, you're doing a bad thing because that's not constructive behavior.
No, but I think a lot of people hear that and they go, you know what? I'm not constructive. I should do better. I would like to be more constructive today.
I think that's like a kindergarten teacher's word.
Not
Like, you're not being constructive now.
Is actually not constructive feedback.
This
No
is-
one hears it and
yeah.
takes it and improves.
Right. This is like when I try to tell Taco, my Siberian Husky, we see another dog coming towards us on the street, like a golden retriever, for example. And I say, now, Taco, remember, we must try our very hardest to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. And Taco does nothing, and then he chases the dog.
Alex,
Maybe he wants to be chased.
Believe you. I don't think you actually do that.
I do. I say Taco. We must try very carefully.
I would actually believe it.
I'd like a timestamp on how long it took for Taco to get into the podcast.
Yeah, everybody take a drink.
Take a shot.
I don't even know if I had that dog back in the days when we were doing the podcast.
Well, he's going to be, I'm sure he's going to be a regular appearance now.
He is. Oh my God! I was telling this friend of mine that for some reason it's become known that I like cherry pie, and now I can't go places without there being cherry pie there.
Oh, your life is so hard, Joel.
It is.
I feel so bad for you. Everywhere you go, you get cherry
I was
pie.
at the opening of our new office in Denver.
problems.
We have an office in Denver, by the way. And a caterer who I'd never met or seen in my life before, except that she was a waitress working for the catering company, came up to me and said, "Would you like me to put aside some cherry pie for you?"
Still having trouble feeling bad for you.
Sorry. Anyway, so Arlo, my friend, bought me a cherry pie as a joke.
That's funny.
We're gonna edit this out, right?
No, please.
I don't
Please
think-
leave in the part where I make fun of Joel.
Okay.
We need a whole podcast
Close-
dedicated to cherry pie to do it justice.
We're
I
talking
think.
about reasons, close reasons. The next one is
So not constructive. No, let's talk about not constructive. What's a better name for it?
Oh yeah, this is gonna be really
'Cause
hard.
it's
I just
hard.
want to criticize. Yeah.
Just criticize. I
Well,
mean,
but what do we mean by it? So I mean, what are the things?
Well,
so I
we
think-
know what we mean by it. We have actually the close reasons are good. I'm happy with the wording that we have of the explanations of the close reasons mostly. So, for example, let's see, not constructive. As it currently stands, which you could say about anything, this question is not a good fit for our Q&A format. That doesn't say much. That's just like saying you're a bad fit.
Keep
we
reading.
expect answers to be supported by facts, references, or specific expertise. But this question will likely solicit debate, arguments, polling, or extended discussion. So that's true. So, maybe...
it's almost like we're trying to say more
too
like not
opinionated.
definitively answerable.
Yeah.
Definitively is too strong, but
insufficiently objective.
insufficiently objective.
yeah, that's
How
much
about
clearer. I like that.
Thinking we could put instead of insufficiently objective.
You're dumb.
Is that's
What
an
about
actual
just
closing?
subjective? Just subjective.
Well, but then we've got good subjective, bad subjective, right?
yeah, I
that whole
forgot.
blog post. We don't hate subjective. We just...
I didn't understand that blog post, to tell you the truth. I should go back and read it again.
It's that there are ways of answering subjective questions
That are awesome.
well, that give kind of give reasons for why you think that
Right,
instead of just
right.
saying I like cherry pie.
So
you say I
insufficiently
think cherry pie
Well,
is
it's because it's the best.
superior because.
It's like that perfect combination of tart and sweet. I'm sorry. Is that not the question? Okay. Wait, let me go through the last one. Not a real question is extremely insulting, actually.
It is the
Your question is, well, it's
the
not
only
a question mark. What do you mean it's not a real
the
question?
only message
It's
we
not
have
really
worse
a
than not a
question.
real question is when someone types something in a box and we write, "This appears to be a low quality post."
That's pretty nasty.
We could be more specific about what troubles us there, but not a real
It's
question.
usually smiley faces.
Right.
Is provocative. It's not just a lousy description. I think people who get that come away almost angry.
Yeah. Now, off topic, actually, I think is something everybody understands, and that's okay.
Yep.
Because you tell them stay on topic, and,
Yep.
and they understand. And exact duplicate, I'm leaving out because exact duplicate, we sort of have a philosophy. I guess we must have decided not to do this because we had decided to do it and then we didn't do it. But we were talking about duplicate being an answer, a way of answering, not a way of closing a question.
Yeah, we toyed with it. We didn't.
We
didn't
really
make
wanted
a
to do
final
that because the
decision.
idea was you
a pretty big
submit
change.
an answer which says, well, this is just a duplicate of that, and then it gets upvoted or downvoted. So now you have signal quality on the duplicateness.
The thing, but does it get closed if that becomes the top voted answer? No, it just stays open forever.
You get pile up though, don't you?
Pile up what?
I think duplicate's one of the few close reasons that consistently works pretty well right now.
There's
now
not,
that you
there's not
have
enough
to,
of it. So this would incentivize people to do it.
But now there wouldn't be any of it. It would just be a bunch of answers that say you land on the question and the answer says, "This is a duplicate. Go look here for your answer."
Arcade would
Maybe
have
it redirects
600
you.
questions asking that same Angry Birds board you couldn't get past.
Maybe if it gets 5 upvotes on the duplicate, just like 5 upvotes on the close reason, it actually does just resolve the whole question as
Okay,
a
so then it
duplicate.
does get
But then you
closed.
see the question, and then you don't see. No, the question wasn't closed as a duplicate. Instead of answers, you see a section saying, this question has answers over there.
Right, but then that's the same problem. You land on it and it's saying, "Oh, you have a question. Oh, go over here to get your answer."
And now you have to train all the users who can vote about how to vote differently for a duplicate answer, as opposed to that's different than teaching people how to close stuff.
Oh
when they're
man, this
closing.
was Shog's idea. I don't want to sit here and defend it. His
I thought it
idea was
I think
great.
it was Sam's idea. Maybe not.
No, it was Shog's idea. He gets credit. I made a note at the time.
And I mean, when so I think that the names of
10
these are
million unicorn
relevant.
bucks.
One thing we talked about a bunch recently again about closing, it's been explored before, is I think what we'd like to see more where it works. I think it's something you can't force easily. is we'd like to see. There's kind of different categories of closed. Some stuff's closed because it's spam, right? We don't care about that. Those
Well, that's
don't-
deleted.
Yeah,
It's
it's deleted.
Yeah.
There's or it's totally off topic in an obvious way. People are just
The
throwing
interesting
stuff
is that's the point, is that we close things because they have hope.
Well, right, and that's what
Otherwise,
I think.
we would delete it. Spam has no hope. Close,
Well,
we...
that's a little bit unclear. Because the thing we've always
There's
said
hope
about
for the
close
person. We're
is
trying to
that
educate
close
someone.
is on the road to delete.
Yeah, I know.
gonna get
but
deleted eventually.
But you must have hope. Otherwise, you would have just burninated it.
I guess
I know
so.
that has a technical
We
meaning.
don't really allow deleting. No, you can't, unless you're a moderator, you can't
Yeah,
delete until it's closed.
That's true.
And I think, but I do think to your point, the place where closed experiences are unpleasant in a way we don't like, where
Yeah.
people are turned off, they're angry, they feel personally hurt in some way, are cases, I think, where we think there's hope, right? Because these aren't people who are just spamming or doing other stuff.
Well, okay, they're not bad. Their question might be hopeless, but
Well,
they may be able to contribute to the site.
Right. So there's two key
One day in
facts.
the
I think
future.
the question may or may not be savable, and even if the question's not savable, that user might well be used. You might be a great contributor to the site.
Exactly.
They just started on the wrong foot,
Right.
Because we didn't have an awesome about page,
Yes.
which we will soon, to help them
Oh,
understand.
yeah,
the
what's
basics.
going on with my About page? Darn it. Is
wait,
it
but hang
exactly
on.
the way I designed it?
It's sort of basically.
It's getting closer.
Um,
We're converging on your design.
But we're sticking with closed for 1 second. On the closed thing, I think if in a perfect world where I was more of a puppet master that controlled all of our users on the site,
Yeah.
I think what we'd like to see most of these closures where there is hope of one of the two kinds come with feedback. So you'd like to see most closures say something like, unfortunately, this is in this example I gave before. This is off topic because Twitter is a web app and blah blah blah. And then he could have said, no, it's not. Wait, that's not the right thing.
Okay.
Or this is subjective. If your question was more along the lines of, is there a specific way to do this exact thing, as opposed to, what's the best approach to X, right? If people got feedback with closures, even if it's hopeless, explaining why it's hopeless, sort of, that was kind of nice, reassuring, I think it would go better. Now, we know we can't force that because you'll get a lot of people typing gibberish.
Right.
But I think from a sort of etiquette and desired behavior perspective, that's something that we've been kicking around a little bit on the community manager side around how do we better really encourage people to give feedback anytime they can when closing.
What about unanswerable? Like you basically say this question is unanswerable. Now, you may think that's not true, though, because it is answerable. It's just we don't want it to be it. That might be not constructive. It's just sort of unanswerable.
What's an example of unanswerable?
Anything not constructive where you're...
That's not an example. That's not how examples work.
Well, too localized is unanswerable as well. Okay,
That's
so
another
here-
definition.
No, it's answerable.
All right.
Yeah, it's a different
I'll
thing.
give you my standard. Why is there a green Honda Civic on my street?
Well,
No, that may be answerable. It's just not interesting.
Not really, because the chance that anybody can answer this in this group of
Okay,
people
so that's
is
too localized.
very
It's
small.
unanswerable for a particular reason.
Because it's too localized, right?
Not constructive is
Yeah,
unanswerable because there is
It
no
just
right
creates
answer.
conversation, right.
Right. It's like which is better, Java
Yeah.
or C Sharp?
How long is a string?
Well, yeah. Okay. That's
not a real
That's
question.
probably most people wouldn't ask that question, but
Oh, they're all over. I'm go on to Yahoo Answers. It's full of questions like that.
Yahoo Answers, take a drink. So unanswerable is sort of interesting, but again, people who it's the same thing as not a real question. People say, yes, it is. It's a question. It's got a question mark.
Yeah.
Yes, it's answerable. You
Yeah,
just don't
you
like
just
the
don't want to
answers I
answer
might
it.
get.
and it
Yeah.
invites what seems like legitimate debate because someone asks an unanswerable question and someone posts an answer.
There's
which
an answer actually
seems to
there.
definitionally demonstrate that it isn't, because we don't say it's not answerable in a
Yeah.
useful or
Yeah.
good way. But
True.
I think
Okay, so to all our listeners, we're obviously having problems with some of the wording
Post
around
on
the
Meta.
closed questions. So please post some suggestions on Meta, and we'll go solicit some more feedback there. Because I think what we're looking for is somebody comes to the site, they see a question is closed as not constructive. They don't even understand what that's supposed to mean. And the one thing we're not conveying to them is that Stack Overflow is not a place for debates or shopping questions or arguments or whatever. It's a place for getting factual answers to questions. And that's the one thing that we would like to be conveying right there. And instead, we're saying closed as not constructive, ... And it sounds kind of harsh, and they just sort of get angry, and then they tweet at me.
Well, the
which is what
explanation
starts
there
this whole
wasn't
thing.
terrible. People are going to be upset no matter what. I don't think there's a way to totally soften it. I do think we can communicate it better, and I think we can provide a path to rehabilitation
When you
that'll
think
go a
about
long way.
Yeah. Think about like
be
Wikipedia, for
saved.
example. Wikipedia, maybe Wikipedia just disappears things more better. On Wikipedia, when they stick their little citation needed into the text of the article everywhere, people laugh at that, but they still admire it, right? They're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Wikipedia is like
I don't know who admires that.
Citation
It feels
needed?
like it's like a little passive aggressive thing.
Yeah. It's like, prove it. But then you're like, you know what? On Wikipedia, there's a norm that people try to prove things. That's cool.
But yeah, I think
you have to admire that.
The more interesting thing about Wikipedia
Oh my God, Jason is talking.
Yes, Jason was not introduced, but I'm here.
Jason is the audience. He's the one person listening to this podcast because I haven't told my dad it's coming. After which we'll have two.
I think the thing that applies more to us is not the citation needed in the middle of the article, but when they have a problem with an article, they throw it up right at the top, right, in a different color, and it's very specific what their problem with the article is.
This article reads like an advertisement; it needs to be de-advertised.
Whatever the problem is,
And also on that front, they do leave the article around, right? Like controversial articles,
for a
they don't
while.
delete them; they lead them up. They're like, "This is controversial, so read it at your own risk."
They'll delete it if it's not notable. No, first it'll be like a candidate for deletion. They'll say this is a candidate for deletion. It is being discussed here. So one of the things, here's the thing. I think what happens with Wikipedia is that all of the visible manifestations of their high editorial standards are actually impress the visitors to Wikipedia, whereas our visible manifestations, for some reason, just make us seem like an unfriendly community.
well,
I do have a habit of taking fun, interesting questions and plastering them with, "This is wrong. We hate fun."
Yeah.
enjoyment is
We
a
do.
good indicator we don't like this question.
I've been getting a lot of mileage telling people we hate it when a question has a lot of page views. That's a bad sign.
It's a great message for people that aren't posting questions. I think the fundamental difference in the Wikipedia thing is it's the individual user experience on some level. So I think at the end of the day, when you post a question on a site and it is closed and you don't get any kind of reinforcing message as to what you're supposed to do, the sense is people don't say they have high standards here. They
No.
seem to really care about quality.
Yeah.
What they say is this is a place where new people aren't welcome, and these old jerky moderators won't let anyone participate.
Right.
And they always say moderators because they don't understand the high rep users versus moderators thing.
Yeah, well,
and
they're
you know
all
what? They don't
moderators.
have to. They don't have to. The point to them is that new people aren't welcome. And
No, it's worse. It's that there's some cabal that's controlling the legal message that you're allowed to get through. And if you're paying the company, maybe you can get in.
No,
Or
nobody's
if you've
saying
been
that.
there
It's
for
just
4
it's
years.
just
That's a
their
great
mean.
idea.
We're turning into the same thing as everyone else, right? It's the RTFM get off my lawn kind of forum
Yep.
place
Yeah.
where it's like we've got that's what it feels like. I'm not saying that's actually true, but that's the impression
People are starting
people
to
are
get that.
starting to get.
Yeah, but that's also not a difference between us and Wikipedia. Like, if you go to the editor, the editor list on Wikipedia, or like what they're fighting about with edits. My edit got rolled back. Oh my God, what am I going to do? My edit got rolled back by these 9 people who control all the edits on Wikipedia. Like,
Right.
we're not that different in that respect.
Cabals are necessary.
That could be the title of this podcast.
And cherry pie.
Cherry pie.
Cabals and cherry pie.
Deleted the cherry pie episode.
No,
Nobody's
it's come
gonna
back too
understand
much.
that.
We're
We
going
can't
to weave
remove
it
it.
through the episode, so you can't.
It's becoming the joke of the episode.
Cut!
We could take all the parts about cherry pie and put them in the after the out music.
Alex, can we make Warrant's cherry pie play at either the beginning or end credits of this? Is that possible?
I don't think
Tape rolling?
licensing for that.
Okay, let's talk about something else.
The end.
Nothing
I
like
just got so
Warrant's
sad.
Cherry pie. Okay.
Close
licenses.
reasons, review
So
queue.
I think this fits into a bigger picture that we're thinking a lot about, that Jay and I have been talking about, which is sort of how do we teach new people how to use the site? Because there's a lot of knowledge, there's a lot of information, we're sending people to learn how to use Stack Exchange fully. You got to read years of blog posts, listen to hours of podcasts,
Yeah.
and read all of Meta.
Yeah, including things which were deleted from Meta because they're too localized because they no longer apply because the decision was already taken.
Right. So that's the thing we're thinking a lot about. How do we make that stuff easier to find? So there's kind of the how do we all those kind of weird little rules that people know but aren't written down everywhere. How do we make them written down somewhere? But there's also kind of the starting from the bigger picture of how do we just introduce people to the site. So that's the new About page that we're working on. So we've got the old About page, which has the famous 4 circles.
Was it
of
three circles?
Four
Four circles?
circles
Four
of
circles.
wiki, blog,
Dig.
Reddit, Dig, which became Reddit when Dig died. I forget
I
what the
believe
fourth circle
that
is.
was most of the text on the current About page. On the About
Was a blog post.
It was a blog post that Jeff wrote when the site
announcing
launched.
Stack Overflow.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the whole first paragraph, if you read it, is about how it's free, and we don't have any spammy ad banners,
Right.
asking you for $9.99 to sign up, and
Still
we don't
true.
have any Route 13 stuff.
It's still
which
true.
is still true, but I don't think
Totally
that's
relevant.
our primary battle anymore.
Nope. And that's not the first thing you want to know when you learn about the site. That's not
Right.
the first question you're going to be having.
So we're trying to work on a new About page, and it turns out it's really hard to distill this down because there's a lot of weird things to know. You gotta kind of somehow we got to tell you about reputation and voting and badges and privileges and meta and chat and all these lots of these different pieces that tags that are
Flag
important
weight.
for you to know. No more flag weight. We got rid of flag weight.
But I think one of the
you
things
might see a discussion on Meta about flag weight.
We should delete them all.
We should actually.
is flag weight some sort of course I can subscribe to if I want to get in better shape? Is that okay?
No. You're thinking of ribbon dancing.
You're definitely really am I?
I think so.
Well, now I am.
Capture the flag weight.
Alex is acting out river dancing. It's too
Ribbon
this is-
dancing, not river
ribbon dancing.
What did I say?
Ribbon.
Oh, river dance. River dance. Now I'm thinking about that. I think one of the things we realized is there's sort of a
Hey,
level.
where's my on-air light? I just noticed that I don't have an on-air light anymore. It got changed to go away. Oh, well, we can turn it on even though it says go away.
It's on now. Is I think it's almost like what you want to do is figure out what's the minimum, because obviously we don't want people to read the 6 million meta pages discussing every possible. The real question, because people are busy, they don't want to learn to use the internet, right? But I think the question is what is the least number of things we can show people so that they are likely to be able to start interacting with the site, to put up a post and not have a horrible soul-crushing experience, but to basically get enough to kind of post hopefully well, understand the voting, and kind of just get to that first moment where once people do that, if a post doesn't go badly and they get an upvote or they get even a clarifying comment, I think what you get a lot is you quickly get interested enough, and then you kind of dig in at your own pace to, whether it's the FAQ or the 6 million meta pages, we must want to give them just enough information to have a good experience long enough to then decide they kind of need to learn more. And then the rest can be very organic.
Yeah. So we call it the About page because that's what it was originally. It was called About, but it's really more of a getting started or overview kind of page. Right. Here's how the site works. When you vote stuff up, when stuff gets voted up, the top voted thing shows up at the top. That's something that's very obvious to us, but maybe not immediately obvious to somebody the first time they come to the site.
Right. Well, you can tell it's not because they're just using the answer box to respond to things and not understanding that the order is going to change.
So we want to have this page which kind of outlines the site and explains it in hopefully pretty minimal detail. And we don't really expect every single person to read it, but it's a start. So the kind of the second phase would be, assuming you didn't read it, where else do we need to tell you this stuff? So when you're actually, going to answer a question, what do we need to tell you right then that you need to know before you answer this, before you answer your first question?
Yeah, we already do that pretty well.
We do that kind of stuff. It's just finding more and more of these things.
The most important thing to know when you're answering a question is that you have to be answering the question. That you can't just be commenting.
And I think we do a good, I think some of the stuff that's in line now works great. So, while the search can always improve, we can be better at search. I think the fact that it puts up duplicate questions, because the duplicate question idea works great. A good place we've learned as we've focused that we kind of fail in providing good enough. Tags are a great example where people trying to post new questions break in fury, right? Because you go to post a question and you know how to type in a box on the internet, you're even earn answer, or it's a question if it's text. You type your question. It's even a decent question, so we haven't said it's a bad question to you. And then you get to the bottom and it says you must post a tag. And some people know tags, obviously on Stack Overflow people tend to, but on some of the sites, people just aren't familiar with tagging. But they kind of get it. It says a tag to describe it, and they take a stab and say, you must post a tag. And they're not that familiar. And they go, okay, I'm game. And they try and guess a good tag, and they type it in, and it goes, you do not have enough reputation to create a new tag. And they're going, I just did your dumb thing. You told me to make a tag.
Oh.
And so, we can do a better job of both sort of explaining you need to select a tag. And, ultimately, one of the things David tossed out is I think,
That's actually a little bit tricky. That's a good point.
We'd like, at a minimum, it should help them understand there is a list of tags they have to choose from.
No, but it could actually read the body of their question and try to figure out what, based on some kind of a Bayesian analyzer, what tags to propose for you.
Bayesian, is that a drink? I feel like that comes up a lot.
Bayesian. You should do Bayesian.
Not all machine. The developers are
Not
taking
all
the
machine
learning
is Bayesian.
Coursera. Bayesian is an
taking.
algorithm. It is not the only algorithm.
Some kind of magical machine
It's true.
learning, natural.
The Stanford Coursera course we're doing doesn't even cover Bayesian.
It doesn't?
No, not even included.
Really?
Yep.
Is it because it's too easy or too hard?
I don't know. I
It's,
can't imagine it's too hard since everybody has implemented one at
Closed is
some
not a
time.
real algorithm.
I think it's used. You know, we've also been interviewing data scientists to hire one, and several of them have brought it up and used it. They call it naive Bayes. You know, it's got the word naive. It's got the word naive built into it, which maybe tells you something. It seems like it's kind of their first stab at it.
Okay.
But then they're all like, you know, if I were doing this for real, I
Much
would
more
use something
sophisticated
real
things.
like a random forest or.
Okay, so we're going to have random forest all over that tags category thing, so that as you type your question, we're random foresting, and
The trees vote. That's all you need to know about random forests. It's a bunch of trees and they vote. And
Really?
we love voting.
Are you
so,
serious?
Yeah.
You do love voting.
Personified trees are always scary. I'm against this whole
I
idea.
am scary, but luckily they're rooted into the ground, so they're not going to like get up and walk around. And
No, haven't you
What
seen
about
Lord of the
ants?
Rings?
And they'll
Yeah.
huck apples at you. It's bad. It's no good.
I feel like I could outrun a tree.
That's an assertion that needs to be tested. Let's go to the park right now. Joel
I wonder if
versus a
that's ever
tree.
been said before. History of English. Unclear.
So there's a new about page coming up, and we're looking at some of the. This is all the stuff that's going on in the
Tree-free as
category
of
of
now.
community growth.
Yeah, it's all in making it. It's kind of under the umbrella of first-time user experience. You know, making the site comprehensible to new users and onboarding
Right.
them.
We should. I feel like we should take. Unless one of you actually, I notice neither of you has a list of things to talk about. Oh yeah, David does.
Both of us have a list,
you have
but
a
Joel
list.
clearly has something he wants to talk about. So go ahead.
No,
and
I was
let's
going to say.
let's talk
we
about
should
the
have a
thing you
break.
just thought of.
No, we should. Okay, we should have a little break where we talk about what's happened to the company in the last 6 months. What's like all the stuff.
Oh, boy.
It's new. Not just the new website, but the company. Like, what's it like here in behind the scenes at Stack Exchange?
So much exciting stuff has happened. We hired Jay. We opened a sales office in Denver.
And
we
London.
expanded our
And
office in London.
Yeah.
We had an office, but it was really like a desk in somebody else's office that
Right.
we were renting. Now
We're
we're getting a real office.
Office in
Those
Suffolk.
are sales offices. So we're hiring 1 million salespeople because careers is exploding and it's awesome
taking
and
off.
people love it.
Yeah, put your profile up on careers. Use offer code. Offer code? Anyone?
Careers
I don't know if we
/
have an offer code.
podcast.
Okay. Is that a real thing?
Now we'll make it by the time this goes live, though.
Careers. Use the offer code careers / podcast. No, you mean careers.stackoverflow.com /
Podcast.
podcast. Oh, just go ahead and make yourself a profile if you haven't already. That has actually been growing in leaps and bounds, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot of job listings up. There's a lot of profiles to search if you're an employer. There's a lot of employers on the system, and we have now 24 salespeople who call on companies that are looking to hire developers
Yes. And we're hiring salespeople like crazy because it's an easy sale to make because
it's awesome and it works and it gets you a programmer. And new people here in the main office. We got a couple more developers on the careers team. We actually haven't been hiring developers so much, although we want to. And we have once again opened the door to hiring
yeah,
more
we should talk about that.
telecommute
We're hiring
developers.
for 1 million positions. We're hiring developers for 2 teams. We've got the careers team in New York working on Stack Overflow Careers, and we've got the core team or the Q&A team that's remote, telecommute.
Yeah, that can be anywhere or in New York. You can
That's
welcome to
anywhere.
work in New York. You're welcome to work out of our office in Denver or in London. They're nice offices,
Oh, yeah.
albeit somewhat stuffed with salespeople, but you'll get free lunch every day.
But they're really nice.
Yeah, they are actually.
The Denver office was making us a little bit jealous. They've got a roof deck. They're allowed to
is.
have dogs.
Yeah, they are allowed to have dogs.
Everyone was jealous here when that opened
And the people that work there are not at all awkward.
because they're salespeople. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying? What are you saying, Joel? Let's just spell it all out.
I'm saying if you go out to dinner with a whole bunch of them, you won't have to hold up the whole conversation by yourself.
So we're hiring developers. Who else are we hiring? We're hiring a designer. Poor Jin needs.
Jim needs help on
Needs help.
design work. So this is just like CSS, HTML, that kind of design stuff. But we also want
Photoshop.
some product managers who are sort of people that can design user experience and design interactions and help us work on our mobile, awesome mobile app, which is currently just an idea. But we need to be shipping in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, that's the key.
Drink.
So, what else are we hiring for? And then we're always hiring salespeople and some sort of administrative people.
If you have, like, let's say, for example, you're an awesome developer and you want to move to New York, but you don't know where your significant other, your husband or wife, might work. If you move to New York, well, maybe he or she is an awesome salesperson and can come work here as a salesperson. And you can work as a developer, and it's like a 2-for-1 kind of.
So tell your friends, because these are really great positions. Obviously, we think that because we work here, but I don't think any of these are crappy.
No.
You're going to do crappy stuff like even the designer position. Jen gets to do whole new sites every few weeks, create a whole new look and feel, and
we have awesome benefits. We have 30-inch monitors, Aeron chairs,
all right,
dual
it's getting
desks
too
that move
salesy.
up and down.
So we're hiring a bunch of people. What else have we done? We're opening a new office in New York, an even bigger office in New York.
Oh yeah.
Gonna be 2
Alex,
floors.
Alex, tell us about the new office in New York.
Yes, there's going to be a big new office in New York. It's
gonna be insane.
Like 3.5 times our current size.
It's going to have hexagon-shaped private offices for every developer.
So it'll be like
You're ruining the surprise.
Yeah, it'll be like we're all working in a honeycomb. Somehow
Like
we
little
actually
worker bees.
this idea came from Jason Punyon. For some reason, we listened to him.
That's an enormous mistake.
Let's see, it's going to have a full kitchen for cooking lunch every day,
Big
as well
palm.
as a big lunchroom that'll double as a event space. So if you're in New York and you want to host an event, you can pay us lots of money and use our cool space for it.
Yeah, we're going to start like hosting tech talks
Events.
and stuff like that.
in our awesome lunchroom, which has a kitchen next to it, a full cooking kitchen.
A fire pole, yes, Alex?
No fire
No fire
pole.
pole.
A water
saying
slide?
I don't know if there's a water slide. You could always just like take a cafeteria tray and slide down the stairs. That's kind of
Yeah,
the
we'll
same.
we'll get a slip and slide.
I think it's a spiral. I don't know.
It's not really a spiral, but it does have several 90-degree turns on it. There's going to be really cool things in the bathrooms.
Yeah, no, that's secret.
I'm not
Don't
going to
tell
say
anyone.
exactly what, but they're going to be awesome.
Now that
Oh, wait
just
a minute.
sounds weird.
Yeah, that got uncomfortable. I wish we hadn't done any of that.
He might have already posted that in Joel's room. I think it's
Is it supposed to be secret from the company? It's not secret to the company.
No,
It's secret to the
I-
world.
yeah. Okay, so listen. Here's my
Come
other
to
plan.
Stack Exchange and see the
Yes,
bathrooms.
yes.
It's the
And if
one
you
thing we're
have-
not going to tell you about.
Come
If you
to New
have-
York City.
Here's what I want to do. I don't know if we've arranged for this, but if you have enough reputation on Stack Exchange, we're gonna mail you a card, a membership card, and you can use the membership card to come to the office, to eat in our cafeteria once in a while, get free coffee, and to check out our awesome bathrooms.
Oh, man.
Let's see
But
what
you
else
have to
will
have
there
a
be.
bunch of reputation. You'll get a membership to the Stack
There's
Exchange
also really good
office.
views.
Card.
There's good views out of the new office.
Insane. It's
Oh,
like being in a
views.
boat floating above Manhattan.
Programming in a boat.
That seems like it
Shut
would end
down.
badly.
So what else has happened? We've done some interesting promotions. We've got the patent site.
Activate is still live.
We've got the Aptivate
Aptivate,
contest,
Yeah.
which is a Windows 8 app developer development.
If you want to
contest.
develop an app for Windows 8, you can win $5,000, isn't it?
Yeah, Microsoft. So Microsoft
crazy.
put up the prizes for it.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Obviously, it all ties into Stack Overflow. Ask your questions on Stack Overflow. So it's good for us because we're getting developers talking about Windows 8 on Stack Overflow
How many apps do we have so
instead
far?
of
We have
say Microsoft deciding to create their own Q&A website about HTML5.
6 times 3 times. How many apps do we have here? How do I find out how many there are?
I don't know. Count and then multiply by the number of pages.
Okay.
There's some secret route that has stats, but I don't remember it.
It looks like about 72.
Yeah, so we got a bunch of apps on there, but you go in there if you want a chance to win some money. Go develop an app. So that's going on.
These are pretty high quality. Some of these have like little icons and.
Yeah, some of them may have been in production before the contest started, and they're just
Interesting.
kind of descending on our contest.
So anyway, this is a big old promotion which we're doing together with Microsoft to encourage you folk, our developers, to develop apps for their new Windows 8 platform.
Yep.
Which is shipping October 26th, I think.
Yep. Just a few more weeks.
Dun dun dun. Are you going to get that? Anybody? Nobody even knows what there is to get.
Does it run on OS X?
Windows 8.
We've got a couple of
Does it run on my
developers.
Mac?
A couple of developers are already using it and like it. It seems like it's going to be another love it or hate it type of thing. I tried using it briefly and didn't love it. So.
I could well I tried it on a tablet, although admittedly not the Surface. Maybe it was like the previous generation of tablet, and it was just driving me nuts. I couldn't find anything. I couldn't figure anything out. It was all driving me crazy.
Yeah, it seems like if you've used Windows before, it's going to make you angry. I don't know.
Possibly.
That was
But
my impression.
It's always been a good mix.
Well, all change makes people angry.
Jeff
It's just
liked
change.
it, right? Jeff
That's true.
blog-
Jeff was like,
Jeff
"This is the
blogged
best
about it.
operating
Jeff-
system since Windows Me."
Yeah, I think there's been some pretty good feedback too.
Yeah, there's been good feedback. It's interesting. It's an interesting idea.
Uh huh.
We'll see what happens.
I think
it may
Surface
be
is an
too late
interesting
for
idea.
Windows, but
Yeah, it will be great if Microsoft can develop like hardware and not have these crazy Frankenstein machines that their hardware OEM partners put together.
Wait.
Okay.
they'll still have those. But the Surface does look really nice.
Activate.ms. That's the what is MS?
It's
could
a
that
country.
stand for?
Microsoft.
Malaysia?
It's a country.
Multiple
I don't remember
sclerosis?
what. Naming
No,
is hard.
It is hard. But
Literally, the best one we had before Activate
I
was.
think Microsoft bought the whole .ms domain just to use for Microsoft.
No,
No,
they
we
bought Malaysia.
We
the whole
bought this
country.
domain to set up the.
It's Montserrat.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's not so bad.
The best one, like literally the other ideas we had
Wait,
were
is
like
that even a country?
win8appdevcontest.com.
It's a neighborhood in Buenos Aires. No.
No,
Sorry.
it's a country. It's like one of those little
It's a
tiny
country.
Mountain. A
However,
region
the
of Trinidad and
usage,
Tobago.
Microsoft is apparently the main user of it. If you go to Wikipedia and look at this, it says it's for this country, but Microsoft.
Oh, here we
has
are.
used
A
it.
British overseas territory in the Caribbean.
There you go. What else? Oh, the Summer of Love happened.
It did.
We may want to save that for another podcast.
Yeah, that's just a whole thing.
That was that. That's a whole thing. We tried to encourage love. We may or may
It
not have
didn't go very
succeeded.
well.
We may not.
It's
we may
almost
not.
like you can't force love.
The only thing I can
It's
say.
almost like writing 4 blog posts doesn't really do anything.
Well, no. Is that we are measuring how friendly people are to new users.
Yes, we did measure.
Yes.
And we did. How did we do that? We did an awesome thing where we took 1 billion comments at random and sent them to Mechanical Turk.
It wasn't
and
really
had
a billion. That would have been
Literally
very
a billion.
expensive.
Don't listen to David. It was a
9
billion.
people on Mechanical Turk.
No, like 20 people had to review each comment.
9, I think, each one, right?
20.
No, it was
20?
20.
Really?
But the final
Oh.
thing, for the real,
Okay.
so for the trial, it was smaller. But for the real test, it was 20 people
So
had
20
to do
people read each comment and voted on whether they thought it was generally nice, or friendly, unfriendly,
it, or they had no idea what it's talking about.
or not sure.
Which was a majority of the comments. People were just like, I don't understand this because it's
Or
about
it
some
wasn't-
programming thing.
Whatever, or it just was neither friendly nor not friendly.
Right.
But what was interesting is you did see a lot of things that were just like very, very obviously and overwhelmingly unfriendly, and a lot of things that were overwhelmingly friendly. And that allowed us to sort of put together some data on things like are any tags more friendly than other tags? And I would say that the argument
that
there was
wasn't very-
not super conclusive, but also just the general friendliness of the site. And I think what we did see is that the site is getting more friendly.
And I think it's important to recognize it doesn't it didn't always sound that way, right? And some of what we're hearing where people were having bad experiences and complaining, et cetera. And I think one of the key takeaways I thought from the comment analysis was that fact that the percent of comments that are friendly is actually appears to be increasing, right? People are actually on average getting friendlier. What I think is that spoofs that a little bit, aside from, I think someone mentioned before, it's the narrative. People like to say, well, they've gotten old and cranky and big and they stink now. But I think the more kind of real world reason is the percent increase in niceness is actually offset by the overall growth. So there's just so many more people.
Well, also, when you see one nasty question, that's much more memorable than the 10 nice. One nasty comment. That's more memorable than the 10 nasty comments. So wait.
But I do think
no, I
overall-
need to say this right. If you see one nasty comment, that is more memorable than 10 nice comments.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
eventually, everybody will remember all that nasty stuff that they saw, and they'll start. And if you start to say, "Is the site friendly?" They'll start to say, "No, it's all full of all these nasty things."
But I also
and
think
that's just yeah.
The big complaint we're seeing is about closures, not about comments being mean. Though,
Partially, when I
what
started to look-
motivated this was, you talk about that.
What motivated the whole survey is that I started looking at a whole bunch of closed questions to try to figure out at first I thought, with all the people bitching about closures, there was a whole thing on Hacker News. I thought, maybe our moderators are getting too extreme, and I'm going to go look at everything that they're doing and try to see if I agree at least with the closures. And I didn't. The closures were fine. The closures that we're actually doing, when we close a question, it's fine. It fits our rules. But then what occurred to me is every time I saw a close, I also saw in 50% of the cases where a question was closed, I saw a mind-numbingly nasty comment along with the closure. So it's just to add insult to injury, essentially. And then I started saying, the real story here is that people are being rude in the comments, not that we're closing questions. And so when we started to try to measure that, and that actually got us some interesting data. And the goal of this data is to serve as a benchmark, essentially, going forward, so that we can see if changing the wording that we use, changing the tools that we give people, is going to actually improve the niceness. I think that things like the review queue should improve the overall feeling of niceness on the site, and we can now actually measure that every 6 months.
think one thing too that was interesting is because there is some, like as you I think, sort of mind-numbingly mean comments, but I think there's also there was a big middle ground of stuff that was not intended maliciously with closures, but felt it, which was essentially the equivalent of, did you bother reading the instruction manual for the internet? With a link to the 37th page of the FAQ, or like Meta's 18th, index, where you could find that you're not supposed to ask questions about Siamese cats in this forum. And I think what we realized a little bit is this reference to, like, there's a little bit signs of a sense new users got of, well, if you can't be bothered to read our
100 pages before you ask a question,
and no one does that. No one gets to a website.
Yeah,
I'd like
people
to
that are
read
saying that didn't
Where's
do
our
that
manual?
either.
Can I find a manual somewhere? And so I think
there are manuals. O'Reilly has a series called the Missing Web Manual. They make one for every web page.
Do we have one?
Seems like a lot.
This is something Pogue would like to.
That's right. The missing web page manual. Here's how to use YouTube or FacePage.
And I think the people doing that actually are good users, right? These are people trying to help, but I think the message wasn't helpful.
Yeah.
So we'll get one of those missing manual things, and this will solve that once.
We'll get O'Reilly to write a book.
We are sort
Problem
of
solved.
That is a problem with the about page, is it won't really be read.
It'll be a really long book.
However, to the extent that people do read it, it will be useful.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be working on helping, again, not everyone's excited to read a manual, but we're going to be working on ways we can help new users at least to be routed to the fact that it's there. Right now it's a little tiny link, and I think we're going to integrate it hopefully a little better into the sign-up process. When you get an email saying, confirm your email.
There's like an inch of dust on my microphone.
It'll send, okay.
I just realized how long it's been since we've done a podcast, and clearly nobody has been dusting my microphone.
Okay, clearly we're done here.
We are done here. You have been listening to the Stack Exchange podcast, episode number -1. With guest stars David Fullerton and my co-host Jadles. How do you want to go, Jay Hanlon? You want to use your actual name? It's too late.
He's been trying not to put that on the internet.
You've outed me already. Everyone knows I'm both people now. It's both are good.
Jay Hanlon, also known as Jadles. Producer Alex did the technical work. Special thanks to our sponsor this week, Stack Exchange Incorporated.
A great place to work. Apply today.
See you next week.
Free cherry pie.
Jay, you have to say see you next week.
See you next week.
Since Jeff is no longer here, you have to say that.
No, you need a signature sign-off line. Let's throw out some ideas. No, you can't use somebody else's.
Mandate, get it on.
That's an option. That's an option.
We'll work on this for next.
We'll
have a great booming, maybe not booming.
Figure it out.
Florid. We'll have a good sign-off for next month, next year.
You should just start swearing uncontrollably.
Are we recording? This is like our best material.
Yeah, we should be recording this.
Yes.
Okay, good. Can I have a sign that says the podcast number written in LED letters?
No.
I've been asking for that now for
I know,
7 months.
I've told you can't have what you want.